Hello, everybody. This background music is kind of new to me. It's free, so let's just kind of check it out. So this is the first time that you're joining me, or if you're joining me again, because my previous start did not go out live on certain channels. Hopefully it's going live now everywhere. Yeah, so I can kind of see that I'm live on Facebook now. So if if you're just dropping in, feel free to leave a message. I can see like if people are watching, but I have no clue who is actually watching. But also, if this is the first time that you're joining, my name is Roy Binder. I'm an aspiring bow restoration person, bow technician for stringed instruments, and I also want to begin making my own bows here on the island of Maui in Hawaii. So I was originally supposed to go to a course at Oberlin College in Ohio. That's in Oberlin, Ohio. It was put on by the Violin Society of America. I applied for a scholarship and was awarded that scholarship. And unfortunately the class was canceled, so I am kind of doing these repairs without a real teacher here to kind of guide me. So I'm live streaming some of this in hopes of not only kind of informing people about bows, but also to keep myself on track. I kind of struggle to keep on schedule, but part of that issue is I don't have the training, so I'm really kind of struggling to get this stuff done. So to the clients that I'm doing this work for, thank you for being very, very patient. If you are a luthier or I think that's pronounced a chetier, or I don't know, or bow maker, please feel free to leave some comments, possibly some guidance. Again, I don't really have as much formal training as I would like, and being able to do all of the work that I'd love to be able to do on these older bows that need to be restored because of the circumstances that are currently happening in the world with Pernambuco, and really all of the woods, all of the materials that we traditionally would use in bow production are becoming scarce. Pernambuco is, I believe, almost on the verge of an extinction, if it's not already on an extinction list. I believe we are not allowed to import it into the United States at this time. So I'm on the island of Maui. It's very hard to get any kind of training out here because there's nobody on this island that does it. I'd have to fly to Oahu at the very least to get any kind of like formal training. And I would love to attend some courses. I know that Lynn Hannings does some, and I really like the Violin Society of America one that's held at Oberlin, because that's multiple instructors working with you at the same time, so you get to see multiple viewpoints and multiple techniques to do the same, to accomplish the same task. Because some techniques might work better for some makers than others. Who's to say what is really perfect when it comes to production and restoration? I don't know. We'll see. So I'm going to get started. I have this cello bow that I'm going to replace. This is faux whale bone. At one point, I believe it was called baleen, and it was made from whale. I'm not really sure what part or anything like that. I just know that now it is illegal for use. It's a protected species. So now we have this alternative stuff to use. And I first started working with it, I had no clue what I was doing. So I, of course, reached out to David, and he gave me a few pointers to kind of get this working. And I've attempted it a few times, gotten really close to what I would feel would be a satisfactory repair. I feel like my standards are pretty high, even for somebody that's kind of brand new to this. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll get started with this baleen, fake baleen, faux whalebone. So I'm gonna get a clamp. And actually, I'm gonna taper the tan first. So when I first tried to, because you have to taper this to get it to get started on the bow. That way it's not kind of like this gross bump, that you get cleaner, nicer lines. So the first time I was trying to do this, I should probably show you my workbench. Try and get stuff out of the way. The first time I started doing this, I was trying to actually chisel it down, and that did not work very well. So I reached out to David, and he said you can file it down, which would be much easier to do. So I have some rounded files that I'm going to try to use, just because I think they are the closest to like the cut pattern on them is going to be more efficient, or most efficient, in removing material. So I'm just going to try file down. You have to be careful, because if you file too hard, you end up you just end up ripping the material. Now this one, I'm going to file down very short, like the angle is going to be pretty sharp. You file it to be able to tuck it underneath the other wrap, allowing it to hold the new tan line on the tan fake whalebone. So I'm not sure what kind of technique David uses when he does this, but we'll give this a try. I believe I have this video going out, like I said, multiple platforms. There's like Twitch is the newest one that I started to stream on. I don't really know if there's like an actual streaming platform specific to like artisans or old craft things. So as I was kind of exploring this filing down, I think I really need to file both sides. So I'll file this side, then I'll flip it, and I'll file down the other side. Because as I look at it, I thought it would come with one flat surface and one rounded surface, but it looks like both surfaces are just oval. So if I taper the one side, but I don't taper the other, then I can't, it's going to be more visible. We want the transition to be as seamless as possible from one color to the next. So if you're joining, feel free to say hi. I can't tell who's watching. So I pulled a little too strongly, and you can see one side stretched longer than the other. It's not too bad. But I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to start filing the underside. That little section may end up ripping off and I'll just have to adjust a little bit. There's plenty of additional material that if you make mistakes like that, where you're, you may end up losing a little bit of material. It doesn't really matter because you have additional material already. I assume the only bow that it would be an issue would be with the base bow. Oh, so today, Patrick got a late start to work. He got, I think he said he's at like 58 hours. If you don't know, Patrick's my husband. He works for the post office like I used to, and they're still suffering a pretty bad staffing shortage. So he has to work a lot. But anyway, they told him to come in a little bit later today, so we got a bit of a late start. Ended up going to TJ's warehouse here on Maui. It's a little like grocery store, but they also have, I guess you could just say it's a grocery store, an Asian grocery store. So I got myself a Korean chicken bento for breakfast. And I picked up some ingredients. I'm gonna try to make kung pao chicken tonight. Only issue is I don't have any peanuts, so I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do. I was hoping I might find some at TJ's, but they didn't have any. Might have to just go to like a chain store and get them in the shell. So this taper is looking pretty good. I guess the multiple times that I attempted and practiced has allowed me to get my technique kind of down. So it really tapers down completely flat, and it kind of widens at the end. That gives you a little bit extra surface when you go to put some glue to help it hold. And we're going to use CA glue. That's just super glue to start each of these. My biggest struggle in my practicing of doing this, applying this fake whale bone, is the angling with the very first first wrap. It doesn't come out quite like I want it to, and if it doesn't, then you're gonna have a little bit of a wave in the beginning and it doesn't turn out quite as straight as I'd like. And being the perfectionist that I am in doing this kind of work, I want to make it wrap tight to the stick and have no real wiggle side to side on the stick, without having to use a ton of glue. I'm really hoping to be able to do this with just like a few drops of CA glue. When I took it apart, it appeared to me like CA glue wasn't used in attaching. It looked like they used some kind of wood glue, like Titebond. Because when I went to clean it off, it came off like Titebond would. I don't want to try that because I feel like because the type bond was all along underneath where this wrapping originally was, so I feel like it would be a lot of cleanup on top of adding excess weight that doesn't need to even be there. It's probably better. I should probably be doing this like on top of a bench break or something because I'm just scuffing up my workbench, but that's what workbenches are for. I'd also like some tips on how to keep these files cleaner. How to clean files, really. I saw some videos on YouTube of how people do it, and I'm just kind of worried because these are older files, finer files than what I saw them working with. I like to learn how to maintain these tools to keep my expenses down. So if you're dropping in and you know how to do that kind of stuff, feel free to share your knowledge. Somebody also suggested that I start inviting people to watch these, or not watch these, but like stream with me. If you're stopping in or just joining, feel free to say hi. You can leave a message. I can't really see who's watching, but I can. I'm just prepping this whalebone, this fake whalebone, to go on this cello bow. So this allows the player to have a better grip on the bow. And the cellist that I'm doing this for, she prefers this whalebone stuff, this fake whalebone. To be honest, I don't really care for it. I don't care for the look of it. Some people really like it though. I prefer the look of metals. So that side's looking pretty good. I've gotten much better at doing this since I failed multiple times. Right? But that's the process of learning. So that side's looking pretty good. I'm gonna flip them and file down the opposite side. I don't know if you heard that moan, but that was Sadie. She's laying on the floor like a lazy bum. But she loves that I'm working from home now. This is where I usually mess up, because it's already been thinned out. I end up applying too much pressure, and the material will stretch or it'll rip completely. Not really sure what this stuff is. I mean, maybe it's just a plastic or polymer, or what it's made out of. But it looks pretty good compared to what the original material would have been. So again, you kind of thin this out, and when it gets to the end, it'll spread and fray a little bit. And that just gives us a bigger surface area when we go to attach it to the stick. And I'll start by just attaching the black. I'll have to let the glue sit for a little bit to get it a little bit set before I wrap it around the stick. And then once I have the black kind of finished and set, then we introduce the tan. We kind of do the same thing. We're gonna wrap it over. The black will wrap over the tan, and that's what holds it onto the stick. That's how you get started on the stick. I'm gonna assume the same kind of style is done for when you're working with silk, because sometimes makers will use silk on the bow to keep the weight down. And I have a bow that I'm going to work on later where I'm going to be doing silk. And I'll have to reach out to David for that too, to give me some guidance on working with silk. I bought a winder for Lynn Hannings. It's in my tool chest. So here's where I'm going to start lowering or reducing the amount of pressure that I'm putting down onto the material. I did buy this little file thingy to kind of clean, because it kind of gums up in there. But feel free to leave a comment, say hi. I'm doing all this work on a cello bow. We're replacing the fake whalebone. And basically you have to thin out the end of this to attach it to the stick. You end up wrapping the black wrap around itself, which allows it to stay on the stick. And this is where I always mess up as I'm filing down. I end up applying just a little bit too much pressure, and the material begins to stretch. When it stretches, it's much more likely to break as I'm filing. And if there's a faster way to file this down that anybody knows, feel free to share some secrets with me. That might be the best I've done yet. I mean, other than it being pulled slightly, because I get a little overzealous. So, I don't know if my webcam will be able to zoom in. Eventually I'm going to get a second webcam. I actually got my Canon camera set up, and I'm trying to get the EOS program running to where I can use that as like a down camera, so you can look directly down on the bench. That'd be much preferable. It'd be a much clearer image because of the camera, I guess. But so yeah, I don't think it's gonna really focus. That's the tapered end, and this is what the original end looked like. So the tapering will allow me to attach it to the stick, which the stick has been prepped over here. And I saw some where they twist it over itself. But the goal is to hide this overlap where the audience can't see it. It doesn't really matter if the player sees a little bit of it. We're more concerned about the audience. So what I'll end up doing is I'll apply a little bit of CA glue, which is super glue, to this. I'm gonna need to push that further around. rotate, 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 rotate. Okay. So yeah, you just end up crossing it over itself. And this is where I usually struggle, because I don't want as big of a twist in it when I go to continue the wrap. That actually looks good there. So I'm gonna keep wrapping. This will be the second wrap. And I need to get this to line up, and I need to pull tighter. Oh! Not so tight I slide it off. Can't wait till you can see like close-ups of the work that I'm doing. I really need to get more and better equipment to be able to stream all of this stuff. I really need to talk to my cousin, Billy J. He does some streaming, but he does it for video games. Patrick did try to do some streaming at one point with his video games. It's a very challenging thing to get started. You have to be really dedicated and consistent, is what Patrick told me. So that's why I'm trying to show you my workbench at least once a week. And my goal is to show you my practicing twice a week. I absolutely have not reached that goal yet, but it's coming up. So you can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me, I guess I'm on Twitter now too, all these different apps. I'm on Twitch, which I guess is more for video games, but Patrick was telling me that they often show more than just video games. So this is actually looking pretty decent. Getting started. Will it focus? Can it focus? I don't know how to make this thing focus. Maybe I can not get that close. So it's looking pretty decent from far away. But if you got a little bit closer, there's a tiny little gap between the first and the second kind of pass or whatever. I don't know what you call these rotations. And I really don't want that. I don't want any gaps in this beginning, but I also don't want to glue it. So I feel like I need to better my wrapping technique to be able to accomplish what I want to do. If anybody's watching and has done this and you know what I'm talking about, feel free to share any techniques. Again, I don't have any kind of instruction out here other than working with, through email with one of the instructors that was going to be doing the Oberlin course. So let's back up and see if I can better wrap it at the beginning. I feel like the dry fit wrap needs to be very precise before I attempt putting any glue on it. I don't want to have to remove it and attempt to re-glue or move it around while I'm gluing, anything like that. I want to have everything kind of set, well planned out, I guess. So I feel like this needs to be tighter. But I feel like the angle of this is going pretty well. So maybe I should just glue it, kind of let it set, and then try and wrap? Or is it better to glue and wrap immediately over, risking getting my fingers stuck? There's probably a better technique for all of this, but I don't really know it yet. So I think Patrick said when you get started, you may end up just having like 1 or 2 people watching, if that, and I don't want that so close. Can you move slightly forward? Come on, there we go. Nope, that was too much. Let's give it a try. Tight, 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 tight. Nope, not tight enough. I don't like that. There we go, slide it over. And pull. Still a gap. I'm going to need to pull tighter. Okay, so in applying the glue, I found that the tip of my Loctite is too big, meaning that it applies too much glue at once and I end up with a bit of a mess. So I'm just going to use a label tag that I have, and I'm going to pour the Loctite out, just simple Loctite super glue, onto this tag, and then I'm going to use this bottle that has a precision tip on it. I'm going to suck the glue up into it, just a little bit at a time, apply it to where I need to apply it, and I may use the end of my file to help hold it down as the glue begins to set. At that point, I really need to set the bow aside and not fiddle with it for a while. That is one of my big struggles. I often want to keep moving on in what I'm doing before the glue is finished setting, and I end up ruining the bond that was still setting. So let's give it a try. Oop. Got a little bubble right at the top. So I think it's getting to the point that I should probably buy more Loctite. You'll see there's still quite a lot in this bottle. I don't know if you can see the line, but it goes right up to about there. But you have to get very fresh glue when working with these bows. You want the glue to be able to set very well. You want it to cure correctly. This is the other thing that I don't like when I start doing the dry fit. It becomes much more harder, it becomes harder to kind of manipulate because it's kind of pre-wound around itself. And it doesn't want to line up just correctly. So I'm gonna put it on the stick and roll it backwards. I feel like that is a very long taper, but it's just so thin that I don't think it'll show at all. So I'm going to do my first wrap, go around, just so I can make sure that I'm gluing it down where I want to. I'm really happy with the taper on this, on the end of this. I think that's the longest and thinnest I've been able to get, which means I'm going to have a very long contact point for that glue to cure, meaning it will be a much better repair. It'll last longer. Okay, so I'm starting on that facet right there. So I'm going to suck up a little bit of glue. Super easy peasy. And I'm going to apply it to the underside of the wrap. Come on. There we go. Now it's starting to come out. Trying to be as careful as I can with this kind of very long precision needle on this. Yeah, that looks good. So let's get it applied to the stick. make sure I'm in the right spot. I'm gonna hold it with what's left of my fingernails, because remember I play cello. And that is not working. Pick up some more. Push back. Again, if you're joining me, I am replacing the fake whale bone that was originally on this student bow. And this is a challenge. I've never done this before. I feel like I may need to apply more glue than what I want to get this started. Yeah, so back it off. You can get enough glue on there to be comfortable now. I mean, it still has some on that's a bit wet, but if you apply too little, I found that it won't stick enough. But if you apply too much, then you end up with glue everywhere. So it's kind of finding that balance. If anybody else has any better guidance on this, please feel free to share. So let's get this started again. That's where I'm going to run into the issue. Let's see if we can pull this back off. I don't want to make too much of a mess. Come on, baby. I just gotta get this angle correct. And I gotta get the angle correct without getting my finger stuck. Pull tight, pull tight, pull tight. Push up and pull tight. Push up and pull tight. Okay, and let's do our cross. I just like it. So back off. We will clean this glue off and we will try again. Again, if you're watching, I am a novice at this. I was supposed to go get some training, but unfortunately I was not able to go because the class was canceled. So I am streaming this for multiple reasons. One, to keep me accountable, to keep my work moving. Number two, in hopes of getting people's other bow makers, luthiers, repairs, restorers, opinions. I'm all about the free flow of free exchange of ideas and information. So, unfortunately, I don't have any real super glue remover, so I am using acetone. I don't like using acetone. That's why you see me wearing a blue glove. It dries my skin out very easily. It's also, I believe, it's poisonous too. Not good for your skin. Seeps into your blood. Maybe it seeps into your blood, but it goes through the skin. I know that. So, but since that glue hadn't set for very long, it's very easy to remove. Get rid of that. Close up my. Take off my glove. Maybe I can reuse that glove. Okay, so I feel that I have applied too much glue to this taper to be able to try and reapply it. So unless I can safely get this glue off without destroying the taper, which I don't think I'm going to be able to do. Well, let's get that back. I'm unsure how this will affect the bleen, the fake whalebone. But there's only one way to find out, and if I don't like the results, I can always just do a new taper. I thought I had more gloves. Ugh, unfortunate. So let's try and clean the glue off. Oh, I'm getting hungry. So sometimes my brain just doesn't let me do the things that I want it to do. Like I don't know if I'm ADHD or what, but so like when my brain shuts down for the day or needs a break, I will actually hop on my scooter and start delivering food. Being here on Maui, it's usually gorgeous weather, and I can deliver on my scooter, which means I get like 99 miles a gallon. So the fuel cost to be able to deliver food for me is super low compared to other people. Plus the scooter accelerates quick. This is actually working out surprisingly well. So I've been able to get most of the glue off of this tapered end. And that's just going to allow me to re-glue it, save some material, instead of having to re-file it down. So this time I really need to figure out the angle. It needs to be closer down. It needs to be pushed forward, around the stick a bit further than what I wanted. So what's great about this is I don't have to measure anything because the wrap that was on it before, there's a line where it was very evident where it ended by the color of the stick. So where the wrap was, the stick is lighter, where it wasn't is darker. Let's get this angle right. So crossing needs to be pulled. Here we go. Man, I hope I can get this right. Yeah, I want that on the underside, but then it needs to be wrapped tighter. Come on. Let me know if you guys like this background music. It's free through Restream.io. It's a program that I'm using to stream to multiple platforms at once. Okay, so I am actually going to stop. I'm going to change my taper. I think I need to be much more aggressive in the attack of the taper. Like, my taper is not steep enough. So let's flatten this out. Oh, did not clamp it correctly. Oh, so this morning I like I said, I was going to TJ's warehouse. See, this is why I think I'm ADD. I will start stories and forget them. So I need to back this up. I'm gonna start there and make it real sharp. So after I went to TJ's warehouse, got my breakfast, ate it in the car. And then I went to Maui Economic Opportunity this morning, which is a nonprofit, and they have a business development center. And that business development center is going to hold a class called Core 4, and it's basically a business planning course. And all I have to do is pay $50, and it meets twice a week. And it's supposed to give me a lot of the information that I need to really get my business running properly, and how to get additional revenue streams and basically making myself profitable. But at the end of this, there is a chance at grant money. And that would be so unbelievably helpful, because all these trainings that I'd love to attend are not here on Maui. I do have to travel to get to them. So like the Oberlin one, I had a pretty long flight to get to Ohio. That was over $1,000 just for the flight. Luckily, Delta just gave me a flight credit, so I'm hoping that the VSA will just give me the scholarship again next year. Like, they'll just set the money aside, and they'll give another scholarship out for somebody else that needs it. But if not, I plan to apply again. So I'm trying a different tactic. I'm going, instead of filing down the length, I'm filing at a 90 degree. That will give me a much stronger angle, steeper angle, giving me a better cross, I hope. But we shall see. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna have to flip it over and do the same on the back to get this all finished up. Again, this is all work I wish I would have been able to complete multiple weeks ago. But c'est la vie, as they say in French. Thank you to my French teacher. I took 4 years in high school. So if you're dropping in, feel free to say hi, leave a comment. I'm just working on this fake whalebone to go on a cello bow. Filing it down, which allows me to use super glue to attach it to the stick. And this is what allows the player to have an easier grip on the stick. Try to clean up this end where there's just a bit of glue. Because I already tried to attach it once, I was not happy with the angles. So I'm going to try again. And that's fine. I didn't need that much material taken off anyway. So I'm really hoping that by changing the way that I'm doing this, I can get these angles to look much better, and I won't have as much exposed material that's been filed down. The goal is to hide how you attached it underneath, making the attachment invisible. That is a strong transition. Yeah, so I still have a little bit of scuff on there, so I'm gonna take it down even further. Make sure I attach this correct so I don't mess stuff up more than I have already. Okay, so I've got the scuff there. Let's file down. I'm gonna go nice and slow. My goal is to not have any scuff exposed. So I really need to be precise in how I'm filing this. But it is tough because the material wants to move. Also, I don't have a straight file at the right I don't know what you should call these. The right angle, the grind, the grooves that are cut. So if you're stopping in, please feel free to leave messages about like the audio quality. I stole these headsets from my husband, who is out there working for the post office. He plays video games on PlayStation. So he's got all kinds of fancy headsets and whatnot. Oh, that's what I should do. I'm just going to keep my nail there, which will give me a straight line, while also filing my nail. Again, my goal is to get no scuff. Don't want no scuff. Just like you don't want no scrub. Thank you, Dr. Reed. That's the real reason why you go to college. You don't want to learn. You want to learn how to not have any scrub. I'm very concerned that this is going to tear, so I'm going very gently. And the goal is to create a very smooth transition where you wrap this part of the fake whalebone, the baleen, the faux whalebone. You want the transition as seamless as possible. I feel like the angle on that is not going to be good enough. But there's only one way to find out, and that is trial and error. Okay. I feel like this transition is going to be so much cleaner. Make sure I get the right angle, because I want the wrap over to be hidden. So for this first attachment, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to try and dip it into some CA glue. Again, I feel like it's going to give me too much. So I'm gonna have to wipe off some. Okay, let's get this right. So there's the underside. Again, we're trying to hide this underneath, so I have to start this above. Pull tight. We're coming up on our crossover. And I want to pull that and angle it down a little bit more. See, and this is where I had the problem with these angles. Because if you don't get them right, you're going to end up with gaps. And if it's not tight enough... And I don't want any gaps. No gaps. Give me no gaps. So I'm just pulling really, really tight as I go around, while pushing these kind of together. Now David said he does about 7 to 10 wraps of just this black, and then he goes back and wraps the tan underneath. See, and I still have these gaps in here that I just do not like. One solution would be gluing these down. I don't want to do that. That feels amateurish to me. And you always want to be as professional as possible. So I need to angle that better. That first, that's the idea. I've got the right idea. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would make 7. Okay. This is actually looking the best that I've ever done. It is making my hands tired though. So I've got my tan over here. I've pre-tapered this. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna dip it instead of using the precision needle. Oh, is Joelle here? I think she just liked it. Joelle's my cousin. She's back in Ohio. So I'm dipping this fake whalebone into the CA glue. I want to get a decent coating, but I don't want too much. So I'm going to wipe it off. And we are going to simply insert it underneath the black whalebone, fake whalebone that I've already put on here. And I'm going to let it sit for a little bit. But I think I need to back up. Let's try there. Again, oop, pulling tight. Let's stick that back under. Come on. So I'm just gonna hold my finger here while the little bit of glue that I put on there kind of dries. And now you just start wrapping both at the same time. Again, you have to pull really tight. Because if you don't hold it tight, then the wraps start to come apart and you get little gaps. This is my 4th or 5th attempt at doing this. The last attempt that I did, it actually turned out pretty decent, but I was not happy with the wiggle that I had in the very beginning of the wrap. And if you have any wiggle in that beginning of the wrap's just not going to last. It's going to come loose over time very easily. Now, I'm pretty sure CA glue takes a long time to dry, maybe up to 24 hours to fully dry. But I don't have that much time. So once this kind of sets, then we'll start to wrap. And once we get close to the end of that wrap, then we add another drop of glue to kind of hold it. And then I'll let it set for a long time. About 12 to 24 hours, depending. To let those glue drops dry, because once those are on there, you actually have to file the ends of these down while it's attached to the bow. I'm sure there's a way to like pre-measure and figure it out, but I have not learned that method yet. But this is looking much better than I anticipated. If you're watching, feel free to comment on like the sound quality too. I stole this headset from my husband, Patrick. If you know him on Facebook, he goes by Oliver on there. It's a long story why. But Oliver is one of his unofficial names. So I feel like that glue is set pretty good. My concern always is that when I go to continue wrapping, I'm going to pull too tight and it's just going to rip right off the stick because that glue hasn't cured. I have not given it the time that it needs to cure. So I'm going to try and keep some pressure on that bond while I'm wrapping it around. Until I get a couple wraps in. Because at that point, I have a bunch more friction on my side. Working to keep it together. So again, I'm going to go very slow, and I'm going to keep pushing with my fingers, making sure that there's no gaps. Again, when I pulled this bow apart, it looked like the maker had used glue completely throughout the wrap attachment. And from what I'm learning, that is not the correct way to do this. You start with just a few dabs of super glue. Oh, my hand. Just a few dabs of super glue to hold it on. It's really your wrapping technique that keeps it tight on the stick. Oh, this is looking so much better. It has been such a steep learning curve trying to learn to do this because I don't have any instructors out here. The class I was supposed to attend was canceled, and I'm working with somebody, but we are David doesn't have experience with technology to be able to kind of teach digitally yet. I know that he's working on it, and eventually he'll be able to teach me over like Zoom or something like that, or pre-recorded videos. Oh, this is looking so much better. Man, this makes my hands tired. I'm getting to the point where I need to stop, and I'm just gonna glue everything in place. And yes, so I can use that to attach. I don't want to use too much glue to get this glued down, but you can't use too little either. So I just have like a little identification tag that I use to mark bows, and a little bottle with a precision needle. I'm gonna suck up a little bit of the glue into the needle. I'm gonna bring it to the stick. I'm gonna pull tight, make sure that's all set. And I'm going to apply some glue. Now I'm gluing here because the next step I will have to taper the end of this tan fake whale bone. I have to taper it to allow the black to cover it back up, fully attaching it to the stick. So I'm just gonna hold my thumb there, grab some paper towel, pull back, make sure my thumb didn't stick, and just do a little wipe. Just a teensy bit of glue came through. So now that that's done, I can just hold my thumb for a bit, and it's a waiting game. So this is a cello bow that I'm working on if you're new here. Oh. I'm gonna have to get clamps to be able to do this, because this really does make your hand tired. Okay, I feel good about that. We are just going to leave this now. To cure. Okay, so while I have that set off to the side, let's find something else to work on. Get rid of my super glue. Cover up my bottle. That little needle's gonna end up going bad eventually. There's gotta be a way to clean them out. If anybody knows how, feel free to share that kind of information with me. Again, if you're joining me, feel free to leave a comment. I can see if people are watching, but I can't see who is watching. So this material here is a replacement for the ivory tip. It is called Elforyn. I have not worked with it. Elforyn is spelled E-L-F-O-R-Y-N. So like elephant. So it's like a replacement for the ivory tip that we used to have on bows. That tip protects the bow. So like my nice bow, my Horse John cello bow that I normally play with and perform with, I'm currently not using because that tip plate has broken off. If you don't get that fixed and you drop the bow on the tip, there's a much higher chance of basically losing the bow. The wood can crack very easily if it's dropped at certain angles. Anyways, I'm exploring all kinds of different materials in these repairs that I'm doing, and eventually the bows that I'm gonna make. And I'm kind of looking for alternative materials that are both kind of eco-conscious, because the world is obviously burning. You can just look at what's happening in the news. So eco-conscious, and I'd prefer to find it locally sourced. I don't think I'm going to find locally sourced. There's pretty much no way I'm going to find any of these materials on the island of Maui. But you never know. Some local materials that I might be able to use is like, we have an access deer problem here. It's a breed of deer that was brought here. I'm not sure by who, but anyway, it's overpopulating. They're getting into farmland. There's major issues, and they're trying to use something called, well, there's also a hog problem, a wild hog problem here, and they're trying to use this product called hog stop, which is basically a poison that makes them hog feral, or not feral, infertile. They're already feral. But anyway, so there's an obvious easy solution that there's plenty of hunters on the island. We don't have the production for food here that we really need. So this would be another source of food for people, both access deer and the wild hog that's here. But both of those, the access deer has antler. The wild hog has its like tusks or horn. So either of those materials might be a possibility if it's not being used by the hunters. I'm sure plenty of them will use it as like trophies and stuff, but if it's going to be waste, I'll take it and see if I can make it into something. David did say that it is a big challenge working with antler and stuff like that. So maybe it won't be a good fit. But this Alpharin seems pretty cool. I don't know what it's made out of, but it's very flexible. Actually, let me pull it up on Bowworks. So one of my suppliers is who I get this from. The supplier's called Bowworks. They're based in Ohio. Let me see if I can get to it. Violin Bow tips. Problem I have is that the screen over here on my laptop is too small, so let's move it over here to the big screen. There we go. Okay. So I'm looking for tips, tip liners. And Alpharin, let's see what it says. So it says, Alpharin is a high-grade mineral resin that was developed to replace ivory for artistic applications. This is an ivory-colored resin with a high mineral content that works well with conventional tools. This unique material is made in German, and the bow tips are made in our Ohio shop. Alpharin is very pliable and forms easily to the curved head of bow tips. The tips glue well with any glue, and they file and sand easily to shape. Alpharin is a much stronger material than plastic casing, but they say that they recommend tip shield above Alpharin. I have heard that Lynn Hannings uses Alpharin. I have not talked to her personally to find out if that's what she's using in the bows that she makes or not. But it says the big upside to this is that it looks like ivory, but when you put it under black light, it shows a pattern that is very clear to the agent that it is man-made and not ivory. So the big plus with this is you can easily travel internationally, because there's a big issue with I guess trafficking ivory. Yeah. So Elfrin is a material that I am going to learn how to work with. I may actually do this for one of the bows I'm working on. Originally, I was going to use casein in the replacement. I have not worked with casein before. It is a milk byproduct that was developed, I believe, in the 30s, 40s, maybe even earlier, to replace ivory. I did try to work with it once, and I heated it like I would normally a mammoth bone tip. I'm very pretty well versed in doing mammoth tip replacements. And I went to bend it and it just snapped right in half. So when I was first looking at it, it didn't seem as flexible as like this Elfrin is. This is going to be very easy to apply to a tip. The only issue you would have is forming the ebony, and forming ebony is actually pretty simple to do. The only problem is this Elfrin. This is for a violin, so it's too small for me to use for a tip replacement on cello. And the bows that I'm working for this cellist are all cello bows except one. One's a violin bow that I'm going to kind of piece together for her. She's missing the frog to it. And she donated to my campaign for, it was, what is that, GoFundMe, to help me get to Oberlin. So I'm hoping to do that at absolutely no charge to them. You never know. So let's see. Let's see what else I have to work on. Oop. Knock over my denatured alcohol. Let's see, this is the Minel that needs a tip replacement. I am waiting for the materials for that. This is a bow that came from just a random instrument for one of my students. There's a few things that are peculiar about it that I don't really know. I'm not a bow expert. I haven't been trained in how to identify high quality bows yet. There are a few things that kind of stick out to me. First is how much stiffer this stick is than most low-grade student bows. It is much firmer than you'd expect to find in a student-level instrument package. The frog doesn't seem like anything special to me. It says made in Germany on it. It's missing a pin on the underside. The wrapping was completely gone, and they had put electrical tape over it where the wrapping had been. The inside of the screw is completely rusted. I don't know if it's going to be salvageable. It might be, it might not be. The mortise down here at the frog has some parts kind of cut away, missing, which makes me think that it's been used for a while. The nipple on here has been cracked. It's missing a little, maybe about a quarter to a third of it. I don't know how to do that repair. If this is a high-end bow, I would need to be able to train to do that repair. Sometimes there's stamps hidden. I don't see any kind of stamp on the stick at all. And then the last thing that kind of stuck out to me is that at the tip of the bow, typically the grain is kind of straight and parallel with the end of the tip. And the end of this tip, it's at an angle. I don't even know how much of an angle, maybe 18, 20 degrees, not much. It looks like it has an ebony underlining, and then it looks like ivory tip. So it's possible that this is came from a maker that maybe was just cutting their teeth, learning how to make bows. The only thing that really makes me think this isn't a high-level bow is the facets down here at the tip. They're very odd. I don't know. I have another higher end violin bow that I can use for comparison, and no, not even comparable. I mean, the angles on it are... So I don't know what to think about this. Well, I took some pictures, sent them off to David, ask his opinion, see if it's worth doing a restoration on it. Again, this is a parent of one of my students that had it with an older instrument. So it's a possibility that this is from a maker around, I mean, an older maker. I don't know. So let's take it apart. I mean, I sent that off to David. I don't know what it was going to be worth my time or not. Oh, he responded. Okay, so so David said the bow seems to have extra wide chamfer. That's what I was talking about. Their chamfers, that's what they call them, on the back of the head. And it says this is often earlier, maybe German, some British, who knows, could be okay user for someone regarding, oh, he's talking about food. No, David, you don't offend me at all. Come on, man, you're like the nicest person alive. I don't have any diet restrictions. I just don't really eat seafood. But when we start fostering, I'm definitely gonna have to change that because who knows what the kids like, right? And I want them to have kind of the same diet that they might have at home, revolving around the culture that they might come from. So because we don't know what kind of culture they might come from. So turn off the music, do the work, so better when it's done, then you get to pay. Okay. I have to generate motivation often, especially with rehairs on neglected carbon fiber base boats with 1/8 inch of solid rosin kinged on the stick. Ooh. So I like the stick. I like that it's odd. I don't know what it'll play like, but I think this is something that is going to be worth taking on. So I'm actually, with what David said, I'm not going to look further into this right now. I'm just going to put it back together. I'm going to set it aside as one of my projects for later, because I have plenty of stuff to work on that needs to be taken care of. Okay, so what is this one? Tip replacement. So this is going to be another winding replacement. This is an Eastman fractional cello bow. So you can see the wrapping really will just kind of disintegrate and come apart over time. So let's get it off of here. I've already disassembled the stick before, so the ferrule's been taken off. I cleaned out the inside. Oh, and this one's going to be real easy. So this one doesn't have a leather wrap at all. It's just going to finish off, it appears, with this wrapping here. Am I correct in that assumption? I think I am. Yeah, it lines right up. So this is just going to be a much longer wrap, but it's going to be all fake whalebone. When this stuff just crackles. I wonder if it's, I don't think this is the same material that I'm putting on that they used in the original bow. I hope not, because it clearly doesn't last that long. But multiple bow makers and repairers have suggested this material to me from Bowworks, so hopefully it's correct. So let's see if I can get, oh nice, it just cracks right off. So the other bow that I was working on was a Brini. Underneath it they had put all kinds of wood glue to attach this faux whalebone. They did not use that with this bow. It looks like it was probably CA glue, which is super glue. I don't know what the actual cyanocryolate. Is that right? Cyanoacrylate. Yeah. cyanoacrylate glue. Oh. Occupational hazard. So sometimes you can just get them off with your finger, breaking it apart. Other times you'll need to use some tools. It's always important to be very careful when doing this. Even though any scratches you might put into the stick might be covered up at some point, it's going to need to replace this wrapping. So it becomes apparent to the next person that works on it that the previous person may not have known exactly what they were doing. But we always assume that they were doing their best. Oh, there we go. Get a chunk more off. So we will get this off, we will strip. Get this glue off of the stick. And then we'll start prepping another set of fake whalebone for another cello bow. And hopefully it'll look even better because it's going to be my second full attachment. So that's not cooperating. I have an X-Acto knife that I can use. I can use a chisel. I can use smaller chisels. We'll see what works. So David said that I should send him some more pictures of that other bow. He can get some, might be able to get some more information for me. But yeah, the chamfers is what stuck out to him too. It's very odd. So maybe somebody just cutting their teeth, like I said. Yeah, so David's in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's currently a 6-hour time difference for us. So it's always a struggle sometimes to get each other on the phone. But hopefully sometime down the road I can surprise him, yeah? And maybe mail off one of my own bows that I made. That'd be awesome to be able to do. So I would just want to get the glue off of this. Acetone is going to strip the finish, but the finish has worn down anyway. So we should probably just strip the entire stick. And then apply new French polish. That is the wise thing to do. My goal is to get most of these bows almost completely finished by Monday. On Monday I have a luthier coming from Oahu, and I guess he's going to use my workspace. There's no real workshops here on Maui. My workspace is also my teaching space. So we're going to share it on Monday and Tuesday. Well, not really share it. He's going to take it over because I'm sure he has plenty of work to do. There's no luthier on Maui, so I'm sure there's plenty of work that has been saved up for him to do. Let's get rid of all this garbage. I need a little desk broom and then a little just like slide out garbage can right here. Maybe I can get like those Cambro pans. If you're in the restaurant industry, you know what I'm talking about. Even if you're just fast food, they still use Cambros. So if you're just joining me, my name is Roy. I am working on some cello bows. I'm a cellist here on the island of Maui. I'm also what they call, I think they call it a chatier. I work on the bows for stringed instruments. Oh, there it is. And I'm doing some work for the principal cellist of the Maui Pups. Let me see if I do have more gloves. I hope I do, I hope I do, I hope I do. If not, I need to go get some. So I'm just going to use some acetone, and I'm going to strip the French polish off of the stick, because I'm going to apply all new fresh polish. But I dislike working with acetone without gloves because it dries out my hands very quickly. So the sticks of these bows are not naturally shiny. We apply something called French polish, which is made out of shellac flakes, high quality shellac flakes, and you mix that with a little bit of denatured alcohol, and that kind of gives you your base to apply to the stick. You'll use like cotton swabbing, well, not swabbing, just like cotton fabric, to apply it, and you'll use a little bit of oil. Some people use extra fancy oils. I was taught to use just basic mineral oil, and you just put a few drops onto the same cloth that you've applied your French polish. And then you apply it to the stick and you let it dry. And you'll do this multiple times until you get a nice finish. Some makers apply a ton of finish, some apply very little. I think it also depends on the wood of the stick. Like certain colors of wood will show through very well with certain shellac. Pretty sure it's CA glue that they use, it's just not coming off very well. So my goal is just to get it off using this acetone. It was suggested to me that I use super glue remover because it's better for you. Doesn't like seep in through the skin, and it doesn't, like, this acetone dries up so quick, so you gotta use a lot of it to kind of clean it up. And the reason why you want to clean it up so good and get rid of all that glue is so that when you apply the new wrap, you don't want any kind of bumps coming through. I need to measure this before. I go any further. So that's about the end, because that's where the glue is. And we go to about there. So we're looking at about 8 millimeters is the goal. And I'm going to write that down so I don't forget. If you're joining me, feel free to leave a comment. I'm just working on a cello bow. I'm creating a fake faux whalebone wrap that we're replacing on this student Eastman bow. These bows aren't high level, but the client that I'm doing this work for rents them out, and they all need to be maintained. This one, the faux whalebone had just completely dried out, started cracking and coming off. Hopefully you can hear me okay. The little meter's going, but I can't tell. So most of that glue is gone, and now I'm just gonna strip the entire bow of the French polish. Oh, too much, too much. Get me another paper towel. Okay. So this is going to clean the stick as well as get rid of that French polish. And then I will apply new French polish. And we'll have to let it sit for a bit after I've applied French polish to let it dry out. dirty. This is just acetone. Acetone's the same thing that you would use if you were removing nail polish. I do not like working with acetone. I wish I had something else. But when I do work with acetone, I much prefer to use gloves. Acetone is not good for the body. But I am out of gloves. I do not like how that looks up here. Why does it look like that? Just old built up rosin. I didn't know this when I was like a new string player, but you're really supposed to wipe down your bow after you finish playing. Helps remove some excess rosin, and then wipe down the actual stick too. That rosin does build up, creates a film, and creates additional work for whoever you're asking to do the work on your bow. So once I get all this French polish off, I'll pull out my shellac and we'll start applying a new French polish. So on this bow, all I have to do is replace that wrap, do the French polish, and then there's a little piece of ebony missing in the tip that I want to have replaced. Oh. What was that? It's looking better. I just don't like that finish. I feel like I need to scrub it down with steel wool and try again. I don't know what that is. I don't want to use any stronger solvent because I don't want to take apart the tip. Okay, so we're not going to do steel wool, we're going to do polishing paper. If you've worked on these bows and you haven't found this 3M polishing paper, you're really missing out. They're different grades, they're just kind of like sandpaper. But much more precise, I guess I could say. But if you're watching, feel free to say hi, leave a comment. Again, my name is Roy, I'm on the island of Maui. Middle of the ocean. Trying to work on these bows. So I have no clue what that was built up on here. It wasn't rosin because it wasn't coming off. But this polishing paper is doing the trick. It's gonna be like a brand new bow. If you haven't gotten this 3M polishing paper, go get some. Let's move on to the finest one. That's not it. You can also let me know if you like the music. It's free through Restream, which is the program that I'm using to stream to multiple platforms. So I guess I'm on the Facebook, as the Filipinos would say. I'm also on Twitch, Twitter. This website called Picarto. I've never heard of that one. But I guess it's supposed to be for like artisans. Okay. Much cleaner. Put that away. Okay, so nice and clean. Now, I haven't applied French polish in a while, so this stuff is garbage. Get rid of that. Here is my shellac mixture. It's shellac mixed with denatured alcohol. So I need that. I need some mineral oil. And I need new fabric, so I'm gonna get the fabric that I have up top. Oh, there's my extra polishing paper. Put it down there. So this is literally just my old uniform from when I was working for the post office. I'm just gonna cut a little section. Excuse me if you heard me burp. That was rude. I can't help it though. It's that coffee. Okay, got my shellac. Dippy dippy dippy. Let some go off. I'm gonna wrap it in a paper towel because you don't know if you have any kind of animal fur stuck to that fabric. And then I just need a tiny little drop. Just a itty bit. I should just get like a little eyedropper for this. Come on. Urgh. There we go, tiny dip. A little bit too much, so I'm gonna wipe a little bit of that off. Okay. And we're just going to start applying to the stick. So with the I need to cover that bowl. The denatured alcohol evaporates very quickly, which will end up leaving a shiny coating, making our bow nice and shiny. I'm just going to go the entire length of the stick, nice and smooth. We'll let it dry, then we'll end up doing another coat. Okay. So I can't really finish the end because I have to have a place to kind of hang it and dry it. I can try and save my fabric for the next coat. Just dropping it back in my little Ziploc bag. And that's just gonna have to sit for a little bit. Find the proper place to hang this up. I don't have any little hooks over here set up. I can just tie it off. I've got some twine over here. Unopened twine. I should really do this. I should kick Sadie out when I do this because her hair's probably floating around in the room. You don't want any hair stuck into the finish. where are you? There we go. Just give me a little section. I'll just go over here, tie it up. I'm just gonna let this sit for a while. Okay. So once I get all the French polish set on that, I'll be able to apply the new fake whalebone, the faux whalebone to it. So that's 2 down. That's the tip replacement that I can't do yet. This is a junk bow that came out of a junk instrument. Nothing really sticks out to me on this. This frog is not even ebony. I don't know if that is rosewood or what. The tip looks like plastic, maybe Caesian. The fittings are just a nickel. The only thing that kind of sticks out to me is this metal wrap. It's got the double leather on both ends. Typically on the lower end bows you only have leather on one side. Stick is much springier than the other student line bow or student level bow that I was looking at earlier, but it could still be a decent bow. Who knows if it's repairable or not. Yeah, set that one aside. I don't need to work on that one. This one. This is just a junk cello bow. It needs a tip replacement. I cannot tell what this stamp is. It's an interesting fake leather. Looks like just a wrap. Oh, sorry, nothing special there. Stick says made in Germany. This needs a bushing down here. The stick is split completely through. Not something that I'm prepared to work on. Seems a bit springy for cello bow, or not as stiff as I'd like for a cello bow. Gonna put that one away. I have this carbon fiber. This was the one that I was doing last time. I replaced the leather grip down here. This is a student bow. It doesn't warrant the work. I mean, I would end up charging them more than the bow is worth to do the work. But if I can get a new life and keep it in some kid's hands, worth it. I might even just keep it and use it for playing. Yeah, so I can't do that one. I have some up here that I have marked. Let's see. Okay, so this is the violin bow. This is gonna need a new wrap. And we decided to do silk. So this is gonna be my first silk wrap. Again, no marking on this. It's not a high level bow. It's an ebony frog this time, marked or stamped Germany. So let's tear it apart. Get whatever this stuff is down on the bottom off of it. This just looks like some kind of textured tape that was applied to the stick. I mean, I don't think this is, it's not leather. And I dislike this because you have to cut it off basically, and you always risk clipping the stick when you're cutting here. And while it'll end up being covered up with the new silk that I apply, if that silk ever has to be replaced, the next person that works on it will see those marks, and that is a telltale sign of somebody that isn't as skilled as they should be or could be. Ugh, this is gross. There's like some kind of mold under here. So this violin bow, oh, it's so spongy. Who knows, it might be worth something for a kid to get started on. So fortunately, the adhesive that was on the back of this isn't too bad. I'm able to basically just tear it off. Ah, nice. Yeah, so I don't even have to... It must have just been some kind of easy adhesive on the back of it. I don't have to do any real cleanup down here for that. Tip on this bow is good. I just have to learn how to do silk and then how to transition from the silk to the leather. So that is another project that I'm going to need to wait on. That's the wrong frog. I'm like, wait a minute. Definitely not the right one. Later this month I'm going to have a much more challenging project that I'm going to take on. It's a higher end restoration on a violin bow for the principal violinist of the Maui Pops. Let's see what we got with this one. Oh, lost the ferrule. Well, I can't really tell what this tip is. Could be ebony. This is older. No stamp. Pretty firm stick. Might be a decent player. Got some rust. Interesting. So usually these little eyelets are a little bit more squared off. This one is much rounder than I've seen before. Was there a repair done down here? No, maybe not. So this is at 59.9 grams with this tiny little leather. Whatever was here is missing and no hair. And I can't remember what the goal is for violin bows. Let's Google. I think it's in the 60s, maybe 62 gram full weight violin bow. What do we got? 60 grams. So 59.9 grams is already very close to the average weight. Adding metal to this would alter the balance point a little bit. I don't know what the balance point is. And it would add some weight to it. Some players do like heavier bows, some players like lighter bows. It all depends. And I'm not a violin player, so I'm not sure which way they typically lean. Again, I'm a violin player, or sorry, cello. I mean, I'll teach violin, viola, cello, and double bass. but I don't. I'm not that great on violin, viola, cello. I'm sorry, violin, viola, double bass. I'm much better on cello. That's the one that I went to college for. So, right on. Again, if you're joining, feel free to leave some comments. I'm on Restream, so I can see if people are watching, but I can't see like who's actually watching. Somebody also suggested that I should get people to join me, like live stream with me. I don't know if there'd be anybody that would even be interested in doing that, where we show multiple videos on the same stream. I don't know, maybe my friends have some spare time that they aren't using and might want to discuss some music matters. Maybe the status of public teachers. Those poor public teachers. I did that for 4 years. I'm so sorry. I couldn't handle it. I think I could return now and be able to handle it much better than I did when I first started. It is just brutal being a new teacher. They really don't prep you for all the real classroom experiences that you're going to encounter. Especially if you're going into a Title I atmosphere, a low-income atmosphere, high free and reduced lunch atmosphere. It's a very different culture than when I was in school. I don't even know if that's true, like if it's different from when I was in school, because the schools that I was in were nothing like the schools that I went to. I went to Perrysburg High School outside of Toledo, Ohio. Very affluent suburb city of Toledo. We weren't affluent at all. I remember, I think it was my freshman year in high school. Oh my God, Casey, my friend Casey, she and I would carpool to school, and the first car I bought was a Dodge Ram 50, just like a mini extended cab pickup, and it drove very well when I test drove it. I had my brothers check it out. They're both like to work on cars. Thought it was a good purchase. Turns out that the oil pan plug could not come out, so the previous owner never changed the oil. So within the first, I want to say 3 months maybe, it was destroyed. The engine tied up. That is a small thumb grip, 2 millimeters. Let's write that down so I don't forget. Yeah, so let's get this stick cleaned up. I wish I had bought gloves before I started this live stream. So this is again acetone. Again, it's bad for your skin. It dries my skin out. I don't like using it, but it's much better to use if you have gloves. I am out. So this is going to strip the French polish, which is the finish that most bow makers choose to use on their bows. And as you can see, it's stripping pretty gross stuff off of here, not just the shellac. You end up with built up rosin from over the years of use. You have dirt and oil from the player's hands. They can get really, really gross, especially in the older restorations. So this background music isn't too bad, eh? Like elevator music. But who cares? It's free and I can stream without getting in trouble. The first time I streamed, I tried to have music on in the background and whoa, can't show it anywhere. Getting a better look at this little, what appears to be a crack at the end. Honestly, I'm not sure. Maybe it's a hairline fracture. I'll end up probably throwing some CA glue into that and clamping it down and then filing the CA glue down to the stick. So that should probably be done before I do any French polish. So I'm going to strip it. See how these things change? This is why I'm learning on the fly. I'm learning that I need to give estimates and then hold the invoice until I start the work and I'm able to get a better idea of what is going on with the stick itself. The program that I used to create estimates and invoices automatically transferred it into an invoice and emailed that invoice to the client, and the client paid already. I'd much rather be paid when I finish. You never know what's going to pop up. You never know if there's... Oh my goodness, that rosin. You never know if there's going to be additional work that might need to be done. And you don't want to go back later and say, hey, I know you paid me this much, but really, you need to pay me more. Right? That seems like common business sense that I should have known before I set that program up for invoicing. So this has a bunch of rosin just kind of caked on. Almost makes me want to soak the stick. I'm not going to do that. Definitely going to need more. So if you're new to this channel, my name's Roy. I make, well, I don't make yet, I repair violin, violoncello, double bass bows on the island of Maui. I started learning this this craft when I was still in college at Eastern Michigan University, working on my bachelor's degree in music education. My senior year, I started shopping around for a new bow for my instrument. I did not know prior to shopping around that you really have to pair these higher level bows with these higher level instruments. It really makes a massive difference in sound from bow to bow. So I kind of found it fascinating. I ended up going through, I don't know, I think like 60, 70, 80 bows, I'm not sure how many, to kind of find the one that paired with my instrument, which is the cello hanging on my wall back there. I got my cello. So I found a bow that paired well with my instrument, but it drove me insane trying to kind of go through all these bows to figure out what's going to work with my instrument. I didn't know what kind of qualities to look for in the stick to be able to accomplish the sound that I wanted on my instrument, so I was just going through bow after bow after bow after bow until I found the right one. So I don't like the wood of this stick, it's so dark. And this finish is taking forever to come off. But eventually I'd like to be able to make my own bows using materials that I can find here on Maui or even just the state of Hawaii. I'd much rather not have stuff shipped to me if possible. Yeah, it's gonna take a bit. Yuck. I'm definitely gonna get gloves after this. I'm not gonna strip another bow without gloves. This needs a tip replacement. It's almost completely off. Oh, well, there you go. Look at that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is ivory. That's definitely ebony. So maybe it's worth a full restoration. You never know. This is coming off pretty easy, like it's probably hide glue. We'll take it apart later. Okay, so where that thumb leather is, there's a bit of built up gunk, some old glue. And I'll often just use my finger to get some of this glue off the stick, rather than applying any kind of metal to the stick. I mean, every time you apply metal to the stick, you risk damage. Yuck. Gross. Need more. I wonder if I can accomplish the same with denatured alcohol or even isopropyl alcohol. Because this stuff dries so quick, I don't think it's doing much to clean. Another question for David then. I do know some of the older bows, the makers did use some pretty dark wood, but this is, I don't know. I don't know, man. Not worth the restoration down there, I know that. Okay. Get rid of all these paper towels. Oh, ow, got in a cut. That hurts. Really just need like a mini vacuum. A shop vac with a little suction set thing right on my workbench. That'd be awesome. See this stuff? It's still not clean. It's rosin caked on. So you ever wonder why your repairs cost so much? Clean up your bows. It's more about the time we have to spend doing the extraneous rather than the actual rehair. Okay, feeling much better about that. So, we can remove this tip a few different ways. It's just the ebony liner. I don't know what kind of glue they use to attach it. These chamfers don't look like anything special to me either. And it's not like any kind of special cut up here. I don't know. Sometimes I wish I could be working out of a shop, like in a legit shop, like somebody else's shop, for a few years to kind of gain the experience I need before being out on my own. But being that I'm out here in the middle of the ocean, there are very few shops. And I don't even know if those shops would be open to sharing their expertise. Like, there are some independent makers, and some people are very protective of like their business model or whatever. So I am actually just going to this one, heat up my file. I dislike using heat directly onto the stick, so if I can avoid it I will. I don't know if this is right or wrong. If whoever's watching actually knows what they're doing with bows, please correct me if it is wrong. But the goal is basically to heat up the glue to make it a little more pliable, to get the ebony liner off the tip of the stick without doing any actual damage to the stick. So this is one of the ways that we can kind of transfer heat. So I'm going to heat this up. Yeah, that's good. I'm just going to stick it on the ebony. Give it a chance for that heat to kind of transfer. This is the first time I've tried it this way. We'll see if it works. Trial and error. Yeah, it's heating it up. It's probably not as effective as applying the heat directly to the stick, but I don't want to risk any damage. Especially as I wouldn't say I'm new to this, but with a limited experience, I always want to be as cautious as possible because I don't know who the maker is or if this bow is high value. So you want to treat every bow as high value when you don't know. At least that's how I feel. I don't know. Other people might have different opinions. Got a bit of that heat coming through. This is also how I would transfer heat into a mammoth tip replacement. So I would actually clamp this file down onto my workbench off the edge of it. And I'd use the flame, I'd move it back and forth while it's there to heat it up. And then you bend the mammoth tip over the top of these curved files. This is much too big of a chisel to be trying to do this. There we go, we got a decent piece off there. The problem that I'm going to run into is the wood is so dark. You can't, It's hard to tell where the stick begins and where the ebony ends. But we will get there. It'll just take some time. That's the other thing that I dislike about kind of working on my own, not having a shop to back me up, is that I charge basic rates for what I'm doing. I don't know if other shops will charge hourly or what. There we go. Another good chunk. Another good chunk. Another good chunk. So when we apply a tip to the bow, we use some kind of liner underneath the tip material. Now this had ivory on it, so I am inclined to do a mammoth bone tip replacement on it. I don't know if that is appropriate or not, but I obviously am not going to use ivory in the replacement. I don't work with ivory. I should put that flame out, because since I'm done heating for now. And to be honest, I don't know how people, even when it was considered acceptable practice, how people could do that. I could see maybe if we're out here using elephant for sustenance and it's like a byproduct, but it's not. It's not a byproduct, and we hunted them down. So I'm just going to remove some of the excess glue on here with a file. I'm just moving nice and gentle, not even applying any real pressure into the file. I'm not sure what kind of glue this is. I've actually never worked with hide glue and applying a tip, so it's possible that it's that. Oh, I'm way off screen. I should probably move my... See, I'm new to this. Thank you for your patience. Whoever's watching me, stalker. This is probably going to take a little bit for this to kind of work in and turn it into a gum that can be removed, because you want to have a clean surface for your new tip. You cannot apply a new tip to a dirty surface and expect it to stay on. Oh my goodness, the wood looks so much prettier when we have some of this when it's wet. So I've still got some ebony on here. Oh, it's getting all sticky. Nice. I think it'd be awesome to kind of do this live streaming if there was another bow maker. Oops. Man, what kind of glue is this? I'm just gonna have to file it down. this one first. No, not gonna try that one first. So let's... I love these little, well it's not little, I need a much smaller one, these Jorgensen clamps. They allow you to clamp at an angle, which is perfect for bows because they're all weird angles at the tip. So I'm just going to clamp it down because I'm going to try and file a little bit. Not too tight. So I still have some ebony stuck to this, and this adhesive is not cooperating. So I'm going to start filing. And you always want to move super slow when you're doing anything up here, because the goal is to preserve the tip as much as you can. You don't want to remove any of the Pernambuco. I'm just getting rid of the adhesive and the ebony, because I need to put new ebony on. So it's pretty easy to tell as you're filing where the glue is and where you need to file a little bit more. The glue is kind of reflective under the light. Now, I don't know if they did this in the olden days too. But I will also go in and I will score the tip once I have it all cleaned up before I apply the ebony. That will give the CA glue a little bit more surface area to kind of contact and set. The stronger the bond, the better off you're going to be. Do I have a clamp big enough for this? I hope. It's probably not. Oh, yes! Perfect. Oh, well, that's why it wasn't even sitting flat. Okay, so we're going to clamp this side in place. I know some people will actually drill into the bench to hold these in. But you never know what you're going to need for your bench, like what you need to do on it. So if I can avoid putting holes in it, I will. So if you're just joining right now, I am prepping this violin bow to get a new tip put on it. I was paid to put a casein tip replacement, which casein is a milk byproduct. But I got this new material called Elferin. It costs me more, but it looks like it's much easier to work with. So if it's easier to work with, I can do more work faster. So maybe it will make up for the additional cost, but it looks much easier to work with. See, that sounds like I'm still on ebony. Back part. Again, you want to be very slow and deliberate as you're doing this, because because you only want to remove the glue, you don't want to remove any wood. And the only reason I'm doing this instead of just using a solvent is because my solvent was not working. I don't know what kind of glue this was. I have no clue how old this bow is. No clue who the maker is. No clue what the value is. It's looking much better. So I'm now going to put some slices into this tip so that when I go to apply the new tip material, it has a little bit more to grab onto. Actually, the first time I saw this was when I broke the tip off of my horse John cello bow. I'm like, oh, why'd they do that? All these little lines going across, crisscross, applesauce, whatever. And then I asked, and they're like, oh yeah, it allows it to contact a little bit better, gives better contact points for the glue. And that's the goal. You want your repairs to last as long as possible. But I just hear a beep. Crisscross applesauce. I don't know if this is a standard technique or not. Maybe it's a Horse John specific technique. But it makes sense, yeah? Okay. Looking good. So this tip curves, it has a curve in it, which means that our ebony is going to need a curve in it, which means we're going to have to bend the ebony. So I buy this ebony pre-cut into these little slivers, super thin, because I don't have the tools to do it. I don't have a big enough workshop to be able to do that. Let me grab some that are meant for violin. Violin, we use thinner strip. Gives it a cleaner, nicer look. And ebony is pretty flexible on its own, yeah. But you can crack it. So the best way to kind of cut it, I heard, was with a jeweler saw, maybe different kinds of saw. I don't have all the tools I really need. When I tried to order them, they were out of stock, and they weren't sure when they were going to come in. So I don't need that much. We'll start with that. I'm just going to use my jeweler saw and start real slow. And I'll probably drop it on the floor and lose it. Just wait. This is where it becomes iffy. You end up cracking it. You don't want any cracks in the ebony when you go to glue it on. Okay, good. And I dropped it, but I found it easy. Okay, so we have our little strip. And here's the Elferin. Man, that is pretty flexible. I like. I don't like how that was cut at an angle from whoever cut it at the shop before it was mailed to me. So this one's too rough. Let's flatten this out, make it even. Again, whenever you're working with this stuff, it's always better to work slow. Okay, so we're looking pretty even. Much better. Make sure that ebony's long enough. Oh yeah, plenty of room. So, you'll have one piece of ebony that goes flat on the long end, and we'll have another piece on the other at a different angle. That applies to the very tip of the bow. That's better. That edge doesn't really matter because the very edges of this will be chiseled away anyway. Now David said that, well, the website said you could use any kind of glue. David said that he uses Tight Bond, which would Tight Bond right here, to do this. But we will also need to remove a good deal of material before we get to that point. So what we'll do is we'll take the tip of the bow and we're going to push it right up against the edge. And then you can mark your bow head. Probably easier to do like this, huh? Maybe? And then you can use your jeweler's saw to cut it out. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Got a super cheap jeweler's saw. I want better tools. I'd love to have better tools. This doesn't clamp down very well. It slides all over the place. I tried putting rubber underneath it to help it stay. That didn't help. Ugh. That's good enough for now. Okay, get that. And I did not put my saw back. Where did I place it? I placed it on the ground because that's what I do. So I'm going to start removing the back. This is my first time trying to saw alpha end, so we'll see how it goes. I'm going to give myself enough room for error too. Oh goodness. Nice. This cut's pretty easy. Yeah, it's easier than mammoth. So if you're just joining, I am currently cutting a new tip replacement for this older violin bow. I am working with a new material that I've never worked with before. It is called alpha. It's supposed to be great for if you're traveling internationally. It's supposed to work it's supposed to be workable like with your normal tools, just like you would other materials. So we start off with a pretty big piece of material, and then we cut it down. With a jeweler saw before we apply it to the tip. I know that when you make a bow, you can apply these tips as they are directly onto the bow, because when you go to finish the bow off, you have complete control over it. Like when we're replacing a tip like this, we have to work with the material that we have, whereas we can apply these while the bow is in a very rough shape, nowhere near the finished product, I guess. And then you finish it all at once. Whereas here we're going to cut down a whole bunch of material, fit it to the head, and then try our best not to mess with the head of the stick at all as we're applying the new tip. I'm pretty sure I need to replace this blade. Got plenty more, I just don't want to do it right now. I'd like to just get this finished. So the more you're able to remove using your saw, the easier it is to work with the material when it's on the stick. And again, you'll want to check multiple times to make sure that you haven't removed too much material. I'm sure there are people that will apply this and then cut both the ebony and the tip at the same time. The times that I have tried to do that and I go to saw the product, then you don't have, like, it ends up breaking apart, so I've just decided to try a different method. I haven't been listening to this music. I wonder if it's just repeating itself over and over again. Get my saw, and I'm gonna change the blade. Let's do that. So I'm pretty sure that I don't have high quality blades. These wear out pretty quickly. And this is definitely not a high quality jeweler saw. I have an antique one that I don't really use. I think it needs to be like reconditioned somehow. I don't have the time or energy to do that. Especially since we're getting close to becoming foster parents, and I have that class coming up, a business development course, with a chance at some grant money. Get that free money. Okay. Get my new blade put in. Tighten it down. Loosen that. Push them forward. Tighten. And tighten. There we go. So I'm going to take the end off first. And again, I'm always worried that I am going to splinter. So I'm going to try and go as nice and slow as I can. I'm literally just moving the saw back and forth. I'm not applying any pressure into it. Ooh, come on. There we go. Come on. Come on. Nice. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna... I wonder if people chisel these instead. That might be easier. You never know. I don't like this. No! And it splintered, so it's no good. Oh, I'm way over 2 hours already. Okay, well, I have other stuff that I need to get to as well today, so I think I'm gonna call it a day for streaming. I'll have to cut new ebony for that again. Try and saw it down. We'll see. I'll ask some questions, get some clarifications. With this Alpharin, I'm not 100% positive how you're supposed to be manipulating the material. So, thank you for watching, and I will see you next week, 2 o'clock, Hawaii Standard Time.